Covenanting is a big part of our faith. I would argue that it's at least as equally as important, if not more so, than the upholding of the democratic process. It is so integral to who we are as Unitarian Universalists and how we view ourselves that the proposed rewrite of Article 2, which is in our bylaws and where we find the core of our beliefs, mentions the word covenant 10 times in the span of 600 words. That's roughly the equivalent of just over 1 page of a document, 600 words. So when we say we covenant, we mean business. Covenanting isn't just showing up and having coffee together. It's not just food in the fellowship hall or hearing the same worship service or attending the congregational meeting. That sort of stuff, technically speaking, as wonderful as it is, you can get in a lot of other places. But covenanting, it's so much more than that. When we covenant together, we mean through everything. It's a sacred vow that we take with each other to show up, rain or shine, in joyous times or in grief-stricken ones. It's being together on our best days and our worst ones, and everything we find in between. This is an active choice that we make when we say all are welcome. It's the love that we show when we choose to show up not in spite of our differences, but because of everything that makes us the whole, holy beings we naturally are. And a big part of that covenanting together is coming together when we break each other's hearts. Because sometimes we do, and sometimes we will. Covenanting is choosing each other time and again because we believe in this faith, this community, and each other. It's one of those words, though, that even though it's bigger than religion, for some can hearken back to a more traditional faith. For example, many faiths have a baptismal covenant, which is the formal, sacred agreement between new believers and God that says, I am for you, and you are for me. I mean, technically we know our covenant is different, but the roots run adjacent. We come from what is known as a free church tradition. But what does that mean, and why do we choose the word covenant, and not something more secular like contract, agreement, or pact? And those two questions are pretty directly related, in large part thanks to the Cambridge Platform of 1648. Yes, our tradition of covenanting is older than the United States by almost 130 years. To begin, free church is a sort of shorthand for the separation of church and state, as opposed to, say, Anglicanism or the Church of England, which is being the state religion for a country, because we all know that we don't have a state religion in the United States. The free church tradition feels pretty strongly that there has been a lot of governmental overreach, and the tradition holds that church doctrine cannot inform the government, nor can church theology have any sway over governmental policy or ideology. So where does Cambridge come in? Well, we can thank the Puritan ministers John Cotton and Richard Mather. Both nonconformists in their beliefs, they were called upon during a church synod seeking to refresh the colonial church governance functioning. That was a mouthful. In the end, a doctrine was chosen that heavily favored the idea of congregational polity, claiming it was the sole religious governance acceptable according to the Bible. From Matthew to 1 Corinthians to Acts, there are various words in favor of this style of governance. And in the end, the platform states that the church should operate under mixed guidance, coming in part from the monarchy and thereby divine right, democracy, and the aristocracy, using all three to assist in individual church running. And what I mean by individual church running is every congregation does things differently. A key to this polity, though, is that the churches must choose to engage with it. According to the Cambridge Platform, a Congregationalist church was defined as a company of saints by calling, united into one body by a holy covenant for the public worship of God and the mutual edification of one another in the fellowship of Lord Jesus. So to reliably practice the faith as outlined in that document, one must choose to do so. There's no doctrinal or dogmatic tie requiring us to join together, no threat of sin or eternity of hellfire demanding it of us. Simply saints joining other saints, congregations uniting publicly because they have made the sacred agreement together to do so. And we make a lot of our own covenants here together in this faith, whether we realize it or not. A couple worth noting. There's something known as the freedom of the pulpit, which is to say that our minister and our speakers are not required to adhere to a liturgy or the whims of another human or the government or anyone else besides us and our responsibility to the folks in the seats. It's in our contracts, but it's sort of an unspoken covenant that goes with it, that we will protect the pulpit. We may make calls for social justice. We may challenge you to expand your thinking and hope to inspire you to action and growth. But we also know that the pulpit is a sacred space and that our words from here carry great weight. When Reverend Kent or I step into this space, we covenant with all of you that we will challenge you and engage you. We will walk with you and hold you on this journey. But we also covenant that we will work to never hurt you. We will never knowingly engage in rhetoric that is harmful, which is why everything that we do from this space is rooted in love and dignity. The same love and dignity that you would find at the heart of our principles that we all choose to follow. You made a covenant with me when the board agreed to take on an intern 2 years ago. I promised to bring my enthusiasm, my desire to learn, my openness and my heart, and give them to this community and to this work. You all promised to help encourage and motivate my growing ministry in a space of love and nurturing, and I feel that you have held up your end of the bargain beautifully. Part of that covenant, as I stand here in the pulpit for the final time as your worship leader, was that we have to let each other go. With the exception of my farewell service on June 11th, this is our final time together. Because part of my covenant with Reverend Kent and with the Unitarian Universalist Association is that my departure from the internship is clean and clear-cut. From this point on, I no longer serve your community. Though I joyfully and gratefully carry the love that has grown here in my heart, and I will carry it with me for the rest of my ministerial journey. But I must do that from a place of distance. There are to be no Facebook friend requests, no phone calls, no meals together, no worship events. Not forever, but just for now. All good things do end, but they live on in the work that we will continue to do within the larger Unitarian Universalist community, and I promise if we spot each other in the wild, I can still say hello to you. And not only does our penchant for covenanting start from this place of saints choosing to come together, but we also see the roots of our esteemed congregational polity there. These two things are very intrinsically linked, and we really don't have one without the other. These choices are nearly as old as our heritage of being specifically Unitarian, and it is deeply baked into our current processes. Without such polity, you wouldn't have an intern, and we would lose so much of our identity. The Unitarian Universalist Association website states the following: under congregational polity, each congregation is self-governing, choosing its own leadership, lay and professional, handling its own finances, and choosing its own delegates to General Assembly. However, this independence does not imply that we must reinvent our governance process for each congregation. Our polity is very much responsible for our loose association, which prevents us from prescribing structures and practices for congregations. It enables organic practices and organizations to rise and survive. I remember asking when I first started hearing whispers of a call to ministry if I had to go where the powers that be at the UUA told me to go. And it was exciting and slightly harrowing to be told, no, you choose where you go. But you can only do that because congregations choose us. I didn't even know a church could do that. Churches choosing how they run and who runs them, ministers deciding where in the country they want to go without being pigeonholed into one place for decades because the diocese says so. We have the freedom as a religious community to choose to be together. It's pretty revolutionary. It's important to know, however, that with great power comes great responsibility. I hear a lot from congregants in this community and others, this is not just a tapestry thing, that the UUA doesn't do anything for us. You guys are a really good congregation, that's why you feel that way. It's probably not a secret to some of you that are more connected on a national level that there are some people in this faith who think the UUA's sole purpose of existence is to dictate who we are, what we're about, and how we do things. Now, my perception from a young UU, barely half a decade in the faith, is that the people who think that tend to shirk change that so many of us as Unitarian Universalists seek. Change can be frightening and uncomfortable, I won't deny that. But letting our fears overtake us is not the answer. When we have people, for example, pushing back against congregations adopting the eighth principle, which is a principle that seeks to hold us accountable to anti-racism and anti-oppression work, I have to wonder, what are we holding on to? If we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, if we are choosing to covenant together again and again under the banner of our 7 principles, which proudly proclaim the inherent worth and dignity of all people, justice, equity, and compassion, acceptance of each other, peace, liberty, and interdependence, if we proudly proclaim these things, then we need to be willing to choose the best for all people, not just the few. When I hear people keeping the overarching body at bay, I can hear whispers of fears that we are losing the polity that we hold so dear, and those fears are understandable. And that is why we covenant. It is not just an idle, empty word, it is in action. In every way, every time we covenant together, it is in our love for each other, our love for this faith, and the love that we do as work in action. Being a member of this congregation is to covenant to love and support one another on our journeys together. Being a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association is a covenant not only to other congregations, but a covenant to the liberative and justice-filled future we so long to help create. On the shoulders of those who came before and dared to dream bigger than the confines of the religions that were already around them, may we always seek to dream at least as big as they did. And let us make the sacred pact together to always choose each other and always choose love whenever possible. So may it be, and amen.